Welcome back to Transcendence Magnetized. I'm Kristin Pearce.
And I'm Stephanie Beausheur.
If you've been with us over the past 5 episodes, you've just finished the intense 5-part The More Awakening series, a journey of historical research, spiritual warfare, and property clearing that took us all the way to Buffalo, North Dakota.
We confronted occult leaders' widespread influence and fought for the restoration of trapped souls. The Moore House story is complete, but the transmission of wisdom is far from over.
Exactly. Now that the battlefield has quieted, we wanted to take a moment to pivot. Over the next few weeks, we'll be sharing the incredible submitted stories from you, our listeners.
But before we dive into those new experiences, we wanted to give you all a deeper look behind the microphone. Today is all about getting to know the people who follow the whispers, Kristin and myself. Kristin and I have collected questions for each other. Here's the fun part. I have not seen her questions, and she has not seen mine. And you, our listeners, are going to listen in as we are hearing them for the first time in real time.
So, grab your coffee, your tea, and maybe a piece of selenite, or light a candle.
Let the transmission begin.
Steph, let's start at the beginning of your journey. When was the very first time you realized you were spiritually sensitive or that the world was larger than what we can physically see?
Excellent question. My first encounters were absolutely when I was a very young girl. I had noticed since the earliest memories that I had, even starting at the age of 3 years old, that I could feel people. I could feel their emotions, and I knew that it wasn't mine. But then it did escalate to even having telepathy going on with individuals, and I could hear their thoughts, and I could feel how they were feeling. That was definitely the biggest thing that I noticed. But when I was 6 years old, I actually had my first spiritual encounter, which was an entity. And it was terrifying as a 6-year-old girl, not understanding that, ghosts we think that are not real are now all of a sudden real, is a very predominantly eye-opening thing for a child. So that's when I first experienced psychic abilities and or abilities that I had.
That was obviously very frightening as a kid, right? Was there anything that you can remember specifically? I know you talked about the one encounter, but is there anything specifically that jumps out at you the first time you think about that?
Oh, 1,000%. I've had a lot of interesting spiritual encounters, whether they're very high, uplifting energy to very low energy. But one that definitely does stick out for me is absolutely this townhouse when I was growing up. I had just turned 18 years old, and I moved outside of my family's house officially on my own. And I was in this townhouse, and it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse. Now, one of my roommates would definitely play with a little bit of not sober things like alcohol and certain stuff like that. And randomly one night, I'm trying to go to sleep, and I go, hey, I really need to get some sleep. And I ended up just falling into sleep. But within that week, I started to notice a shift in this townhome energetically. Like I was being watched. Definitely something at the edge of my heels as I'm walking from upstairs to downstairs. But the most prominent thing that I can never forget is I was getting ready in the bathroom at around 6 in the morning, going to work. And I'm just blow drying my hair and getting ready and all these things. And I can feel eyes on me. And it's down this hallway that leads to these stairs that goes to the main level. And I get this feeling going, you know what, don't pay attention to it. Just keep getting ready. And I'm getting ready and I finally get done. And then I officially look to the left and all of a sudden there is a massive black energy. And it had smog around it. But the most significant thing that I noticed about this energy is how beefy its arms were. And they were very long. It was definitely crouching at the top of the stairs. And I could see how long its fingers were. And it was definitely not someone who was small. It was very much trying to intimidate me. And all I could see was red eyes with these big, long arms crouching at the top of the staircase. So I got scared and I ran into my bedroom. And I was like, how do I get out of here? I just need to get to work. So my first thought was run, right? Just run as fast as you can. And as I go out of this bedroom and I start to run towards down those stairs, this entity actually walked through me. And I've never had another energy ever do that to me since that day. But it felt like the soul was sucked out of me. All of the energy and the light source that I had, it almost just got sucked right from the back outside of me. And I had to grab the railing that was going down these stairs because my knees hit each other so fast that I didn't feel like I could stand on my feet. And I pulled myself down. And finally, I was able to get out of the house. But there was a part of me, even when I got to work, I sat there and went, do I even go back? And I can never forget about that memory. That is probably one of the corest memories I have through my spiritual experience. Not so much in childhood, but I definitely was a young adult. So it was something I was not used to.
No, and when you're not used to that and you're just kind of gaining even the clarity on how to deal with that.
Yeah, very intense. Not something that I would recommend for most people. But it taught me a lot. It did. It absolutely taught me so much about who I am, how powerful I can be. And, you know, that kind of gets into me talking about you, Kristin. For you, was there a moment when you realized your ability, whether it's Reiki, clairvoyance, or mediumship? What was the distinct tool and overall just general intuition that sparked in you?
You know, when I started this, I had first started seeing Steph. I had taken a few her courses, and then all of a sudden I got into Reiki, and that is what opened all of it up. Right? I didn't really have much background. Yeah, I've been really always been interested in the paranormal or even just spirits in general. And I knew that I had something, but Reiki definitely opened up a ton of my clairvoyance senses, and that was really just a great opportunity.
And I love that. And I have to extend that I'm so proud of you. When we first engaged and you did take some of my coachings, which for our listeners, I'm a divination master and I'm an intuitive ability coach. So that does define that I do teach people to aid into their psychic abilities, how to tap in, where your soul came from. And Kristin did a phenomenal job working with me. And she did ask me at some point, do you think it would benefit me to do Reiki? And I said, absolutely. Chase your dreams, you know? And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think she's very gifted. She's very, very powerful. And she's grown ever since I've known her, which is a blessing in itself. And so that does lead me to what specialized certain trainings or studyings or some of the techniques that you seeked out, just kind of like Reiki and all of that stuff. How did that strengthen a specific form of communication when it came to your intuition? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you first off. Thank you for the compliment. That was really nice. But Reiki definitely, I took level 1 and 2 and I fell in love with it. I did a lot of Reiki on myself and it was something that was very healing. And then I brought it to my master's. So I got my master's in Reiki and now have a business for Reiki. And that is really helpful in even just strengthening my own skills while also helping other people. Because I'm able to open up the communication from for people and from spirit. And so having those types of tools in my tool belt is really important for me to communicate what spirit has for other people and what other people like want to get from spirit.
Oh, I absolutely agree. You know, we are all a Rubik's Cube. We all have something that somebody else doesn't. And so I think it is a beautiful thing when you can look at somebody and go, yes, go play with go play in the waters, go have fun, go learn different techniques, go do different styles of stuff. I think it's a very beautiful thing because a lot of us, we have a reason of being here. And part of that is psychic ability and or spiritual gifts. We all come here with gifts. There's a reason why you're existent in this time frame. And Kristin, I truly firmly believe you have found your path because you are so equipped at it. You are amazing. Very, very honored to have you in my life because you do look at spirituality in such a beautiful way and even your own, which is very powerful. So
Well, thank you. Yeah, spirituality is definitely my path. I am very passionate about it and I'm very lucky that I ran into stuff when I did because everything just played out the way that it was supposed to and it's a great thing to have in life. So, Steph, now looking at how far we both come, how has your relationship with your spiritual gifts, intuition, or empathy changed from the time you started until today?
oh, this is a good one. It's changed immensely. I definitely don't carry the same reality I did even a month ago. I'm constantly quantum shifting, is the easiest way that I can emphasize that. But I remember being such a young child, having just the littlest, tiny little details that would happen to me to today, and being able to look at myself all the way down to my childhood and go, wow, if that didn't start then, I wouldn't be who I am today. And some of those lessons were very hard. I mean, Kristin knows me a little bit. I haven't had the easiest childhood, guys. And you'll get to know me a little bit more for sure. But psychic abilities definitely came out of the struggles and the trauma and the tribulations that I needed to go through in order to be who I am today. But the one thing that I would say that has changed the most is I let the divine take my options, where it's hard to explain this because there's so much that goes into it. But the easiest way that I can explain it is I gift the divine what I can't control, and I get to mediate what I can control. And I feel like that's something really, really hard, not just for even psychic people, but specifically with humanity. There's so much that we're trying to control, especially when you're an empath and you love people and you want to be there for them and you want to support them. But sometimes you're not looking at yourself and giving yourself also that same support and different types of methods that way. I think that's the most beautiful thing I've learned in my life is going, you know what? Instead of letting a harsh situation rock me, and yes, it is meant to teach me a lesson, what is it actually trying to teach me? Before I give it emotion, what is it trying to teach me? And is that emotion even going to serve me? Right? And I know that's such a simplistic thing, but in the spiritual realm, it's a massive thing because when we leave this earth, we leave so many emotions, and the only thing that we have left is love. And I think that's the biggest goal into spirituality is living vibrationally and very, very magnetized to love and being not just that for yourself, but being it for all. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned.
You know, I have been practicing a lot of that, and I think a lot of that is so true. Actually, I think all of it is so true. It is very hard to give up certain emotions on this humanistic plane, right? And so sometimes those hard situations do rock you, and I do find it very beneficial to think, what can I learn from that? But furthermore, pertaining to that, how have you intentionally developed the skills relating to letting those things go? Are there any specific books, teachers, or practices or spiritual muscles that you've used, even just lately?
Absolutely. I mean, I am the psychic ability coach. So for me, refining myself and making myself the sharpest tool that I can be for myself and to others is very crucial. Books I recommend all the time. And I want to take a moment and thank Jay Shetty right at this very second, because you haven't only changed my life, but you have changed a lot of people in my life that I've recommended to you. I have recommended the book Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty so many times because that book changed my life. It did. It allowed me to understand how not to feed into negativity, how to keep a simple, valued lifestyle, how to create a structure for yourself that's not hard. It actually makes things fun, it makes it enjoyable. Now, teachers for me, of course, my mother is a psychic medium. So my mother was a teacher to me all the time. I would go to her and ask her questions, and it's beautiful because we teach each other a lot of different things. But when it comes to teachers, we are all teachers, right? Whether if you're a psychic ability coach or you're just a person on the street that you haven't had any of that experience, you're still a teacher. So even though being a coach, people come to me all the time for help, but they don't realize how much they help me too. And that is a gift in itself, being able to have somebody else be your teacher. And when it comes to practices, I do coaching. So there's a lot of practices that I do coach based on what you're trying to get to, whether it's in your psychic ability, whether it's just being a more regulated individual, whether it depends on those types of categories. But I definitely do practice something called 4-2 breath work. And the divine has actually taught me this. And I won't go into too much detail for sure, because it would spoil a little bit on what I teach in my coachings. But breath work is massive. If you want to be able to be structured, you can't be holding your breath constantly. I think a lot of us are holding our breath without realizing how much our brain is starving of oxygen. And it's not just our brain, it's our body. When we're focused, what do? We hold our breath. And a lot of the time that happens, and it's going throughout our daily life. So breathing, guys, extremely important. Give yourself at least 5 minutes a day to take really nice inhales and really nice exhales, and you will definitely understand the difference. But also guided meditations. It doesn't have to be a specific guided meditation for anybody else but yourself. What do you need? What does your body need right now at this very second? And put some headphones on and be with yourself. I think that's a very powerful, pivotal action on how to practice with your spiritual muscles and to sharpen them. But keep yourself calm. Control the controllable, right? There's only so much we can control. And if you guys do want to understand how to refine and really ramp up those spiritual muscles and sharpen them, definitely come and consult with me, because I would love to do that for you. It's not even just for me, it's mainly for you. So you can really truly see how gifted and powerful you really are, not just from what I see, but what you are going to experience, right?
You know, yes, I'm just going to say on that line, absolutely go to stuff. I still go to stuff and learn new things every second. So definitely go give it a try. You will feel a lot better, and you'll learn a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Kristin. I really appreciate it. Kristin knows I love helping her, but I love helping people. I love being your advocated cheerleader. I always want to be there for you. through thick and thin, whether it's the most simple situation to something that's complex. Like, that's why I'm a coach. I'm not just a sidekick. I'm there with you through life, not just once in a time. Right? So we'll roll it off to Kristin. We've both faced intense energy for sure. So what was the single most spiritual block, whether it was an entity or an energy surge that kind of surfaced in your life and you had to confront it outside of the more awakening investigation? Is there any situation that pulls out of you specifically that really hits home, that really kind of was like, whoa, that is a block for me? And it is a lesson that I can learn how to do more specifically.
This question in particular has my mind absolutely reeling because Steph knows how much activity had happened in my house during all of it, from when I started my spiritual journey even to now. And honestly, I could pick out a few, but my real answer is I don't have one specific one. And here's why. All of them taught me a lesson, right? They all taught me something. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from all of them are I have to be able to, kind of what Steph talked about previously, I have to be able to give my fear to the spiritual world. I have guides. Obviously, we have guides for a reason, right? That's what happens. And I have to give my fear from every single one of them and give that to my guides and have them help me reroute that. Every single thing that happened inside of my house was something that I had to sit back and go, okay, help me rewrite this. Because otherwise, I'm going to be scared of all of these negative energies. And what's that going to do? It's going to help them. That's what they want. They want your fear. They want you scared. They want you in a corner. And we can't be in a corner, especially with someone that does energy work. I can't be in a corner and be scared of that. That's not fair for me, and that's not fair for my clients. So I don't have a specific thing that really set me off course. I have a whole bunch of things, but
Yeah, when I first met Kristin, she was at a very beaconing point of a massive spiritual awakening. When I first started working with Kristin, she was getting more in touch with her psychic ability, and energies kind of started picking that up, right? And because of that, there was a lot of encounters in this house that she was in. But I'll tell you what, she was a trooper, guys. She absolutely was. If she needed help, she would come to me. If she could handle it on her own, she could totally handle it on her own. And it started becoming a point where Kristin didn't need me all the time. It got to a point where she could fight and be head on with these energies on her own and just go, hey, you're not going to do this anymore. So it has been excruciatingly beautiful to see how much Kristin has grown. And crucially, what I find unique is the strategic steps and tools that she had deployed, kind of going through the process of keeping her house cleansed and doing different types of things on keeping things obviously at a healthy frequency. So I would like to inquire, Kristin, to ensure the integrity of like some of the energies that you would work with. How would you cleanse those spaces and kind of confront them going, enough is enough? What are some examples of that you could enlist out specifically?
I'll be very transparent. When this all started happening, when I was heightening, my first step was Steph. Always Steph. Because, like I've stated before, I learned so much in just a 1 minute period from this woman. Like, a whole hour's worth of information can download into my brain in 1 minute. And so, quite honestly, that was my first step. But once I started getting comfortable, I would ask my birth angel. He is, quite honestly, a very important part of my spiritual world. That energy is just absolutely beautiful. Sorry, I had to touch on him, but I would go to him and go, what can I do? And every situation is different. And I feel that that's why it's so important to start learning some of these spiritual tools that you can use on your own. So going to Steph would be such a great thing for you, because every single time I had a situation, my birth angel would tell me something different on how to confront them. I also used a lot of Reiki when it came down to it. I did dive, when I took my Reiki classes, I did dive into a class of dark world clearings, and some of those tools are just, I keep them in my tool belt because they're so easy to pull out, and they work every single time. So that's what I would say that I did to overcome some of these.
Thank you. I think that's beautiful to add. Really. Kristin is so powerful, guys, and it's all because she looked at certain situations and decided to jump off the cliff and be caught, which a lot of the time to the universe, that's all they need to be able to give to you, whether it's your blessings, your affirmations, your manifestations. It all leads to abundance, right? And she was able to refine these tools from starting at a point where going, I'm kind of in tune, to now, oh, I am equipped. I know Kristin wears that spiritual armor. That is her niche. She does amplify spiritual armor, not just for herself, but other people through her Reiki and through a lot of her psychic ability. I am so proud of her, being as she came to me and we've gotten to know each other. I know her path is needed and what she is doing, and she is rocking it. I mean, she is killing it, guys. And I've been very shocked with Kristin because she did come to me. She did. And sometimes spirit would come through me, the highest of divine, and they'd ask me questions to ask Kristin, as like, are you sure you need Steph? Do you know what this is? And there is a part of me that I would bring that out. And it really rocked into Kristin in a way going, you know what? You're right. I do need a little bit of that pump up. And so not just for us, what I want to hold as an example, guys, is truly, this is for everybody. Okay. Like when you look at each other, pump each other up, really say the things that somebody may need to hear, because that's sometimes what they need for sure. But Kristin would have gotten there on her own, but I'm blessed that I got a visualization into her journey, because it's been nothing short of beautiful. It really, really is.
Well, thank you. I'm not supposed to cry on this podcast, but I might. Steph, let's get into this. What is one paranormal experience you've had that still gives you chills, or that you can't fully explain, even with your current level of knowledge?
Oh, yeah. I already shared one of my spooky ones where an energy walked through me, so that knocks it off the docket. But I'll tell you what, when I was 6 years old and I first saw this energy, I will definitely go into more detail on that, because it does give me chills to this day, because my mother still lives in that house. Okay. So as a 6-year-old, nighttime, very much in the middle of the night, I slept with 2 sisters in my room, and we were on a bunk bed, and my youngest sister was to the left of me on her own bed. And it started with knocking in the dark, and I would notice something would knock on the computer screen. And it got me looking as a kid going, well, I don't see anything there. And this was well before kids having cell phones and stuff. Way before that, we had a landline. We had this old school bulky computer that was just sitting there, and it was knocking on the screen. And I got scared because the air turned cold, extremely cold, like a very abnormal cold. And that's how this energy started messing with me. So I went to my mom and I said, this is going on. And she started to highlight in me that she did see me before I was born. And she really started coming clean on spirituality things. And we can get into that at another brief moment. But she told me after that, going, you have the energy to tell that thing to leave you alone. So tell it to leave you alone. So the next night I fall asleep. And I wake up again with this cold sensation all around me. And there's the knocking on the computer screen again. And I say, go away. It then moves to the right side of my bed and starts knocking on the wall. And again, I say, go away. And I'm being a little more firm with it. Then it decides to knock not even 6 inches above my head where my pillow is. And I'm laying my head down and it knocks right there. Both of my sisters are dead asleep and I did not care. I raised my voice loud and I said, leave me alone. And that's exactly how I said it. All the knocking stops. Next thing I know, there is knocking on above my head on each wall. The computer screen is getting knocked on and it's all this banging. It's not knocking at this point. It's banging, almost like the side of a fist is banging on every single area. So as a child who's 6 years old, what do? I rip the blankets off of me and don't even think where my foot is going. I just start running. And right out of my bedroom, there's 14 steps that go upstairs. That's where my mother is sleeping. And I'm running up these stairs as fast as I can. And I get this gut feeling to turn my head and look over my shoulder. I see this entity on all fours that had like a basically almost like a wolf kind of looking face, very long limbs, very, very slender and tall. And I'm still running. And I turn the corner and run into my mom's room. She's dead asleep. And I'm like, Mom, it's getting me. And she goes, what? What are you talking about? And as soon as she says that sentence, this haunts me. I saw those hands on that creature put its hands on the bed. And it started to crawl up the bed. And you can see the imprint of the hands going in the bed, coming closer. And that's when my mom really woke up because she could feel it. And after that, she goes, go away and leave her alone. And it finally left. But as a 6-year-old, that haunts me to this day. Like I could be there yesterday and see the whole entire experience again. So I would have to say that is like the number one marker on the dot for sure.
I do have to ask about this interaction because if you all could see me, my eyes were very wide. I have never heard this story before. Is there any residual energy when you go back to that room?
Absolutely. Every single time I walk into this room, I don't even have to get to the carpet and I can feel it. And there are things that I have found out about my mother's house as I have gotten older, which connects the dots on a lot of different things, being more spiritually in depth and equipped. But I can never look at that room the same. Ever in my life can I look at it the same. It still makes my skin crawl 1,000%.
110% understandable. I just have to say that.
Yeah, I mean, confrontation always teaches you something. And it made me realize at such a young age, I went, why me? Why am I the one going through these things? But now with practices that I do, if people actually have that kind of energy in their house, I can actually cleanse your household. I can make sure that energy leaves, that it has no purpose. And also, if I can heal that energy, then I will do my best. But if I can't, then I can't. And it's difficult. But I do help with energy work in households. So if you do have a household that's got kind of hectic energy, you know there's some stuff going on, definitely hit me up for sure. I would love to help you make sure that you have a home feel like a home, because that's what it should be. But Kristin, what is the single most important lesson or piece of wisdom you've learned from confrontations and kind of the investigational spiritual activity, aside from the Moore House, of course, but what are some tools that you equipped once you went through certain experiences like that?
Few things. We're going to go with grounding first. Grounding is incredibly important to me. I find that when I come ungrounded, some of those feelings of frustration and things that are not my feelings start to seep into me. That can become very heavy. It's a big weight to carry. So when you keep yourself grounded, clear yourself, give yourself some time, you can really pick through and understand what's meant for you and what's not, or what are your feelings and what are not your feelings. But kind of going into that, releasing the negativity. It's not always easy, especially negativity from spirits. It can be very challenging because you don't want to give them what they're coming to you for. They're coming to you to irritate you. They're coming to you to make you infuriated. And that can become also very heavy. So the biggest lessons I take is that every single encounter you have, good or bad, there's always a lesson to take from it. Every single time. And while a majority of them can be the same, you can find in each situation that there are different lessons or a different way to take that lesson. And so that is the one biggest piece I've taken from anything that I've had when I started my journey.
I think that's so accurate. Grounding is the number one thing that I definitely recommend if you're dealing with even your own energy or anybody else other than yourself. It's the most important thing because obviously we know where our intention is, but when we are engaging with other energies, we sometimes do know where their intention is, but sometimes we really don't know what their intentions are. So staying grounded, keeping your energy cleansed, making sure that those feelings that you could be feeling do not harbor you and become your own. Very, very crucial. That shows that you're not just a beginner, you're advanced. You know how these energies are going to react. So a follow-up on that, what are your beliefs regarding life after death, reincarnation, and or soul's continuation at that point, because it relays a little bit into the energies and such? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, my beliefs are definitely, I believe in life after death. That is what I do on a daily or a basis is communicate with the people that have the life after death, with people that are hurting, people that need help. But I also believe in reincarnation. I do have my own journey that I am well aware of, that I took the class from Steph on, and it is something that I hold near me because I did learn a lot of lessons from those lives that I had. So soul's continuation, absolutely. I mean, we're here for a reason, and connecting with those that have passed is super important because they see the bigger picture to everything. They see why we're doing the things we're doing, and they're here to help us. And so I just hope that one day, or I know, I don't even hope, I know that one day that's going to be me, right? I'm going to help somebody else on this plane that's ready for it and help them just kind of navigate their own life.
I think that's amazing. And I think it is the primordial purpose of my life standard too, right? I know we both love helping spirits who have lost their way. Maybe they had passed in a very tragic way, or maybe it just didn't make sense why they passed, or sometimes they are a really good person and they don't know exactly what to do. And I think it is a beautiful thing, not only doing that for souls that are going to go through the times of being stagnant and stuck as spirits, it's also important with humans on earth, right? Looking at each other and going, you know, there is life after death, and looking at each other and understanding that we can only give so much to somebody. Somebody's life is never promised. So as an advocacy out there to our listeners is always check in with people that you love. Make sure that they're doing okay, because there are things that do come up in lifetime. That time can never be promised, but that doesn't mean you can't connect with them in the afterlife, because reincarnation is a real thing. The soul's continuation is a very promising thing. And obviously, some of us do understand that, and some of us are meant to understand it at a different time. But it is a beautiful understanding of life, because I think that's why we all came here. It's not even a thinking, too. It's a knowing. I know why we all came here. It's not just for ourselves, but for each other. Right?
Right. And I think all of that is so true. And when you really dive into what the universe is, your path is laid out. You are here for a reason. The universe has you here for a reason, and figuring out that reason is an absolute beautiful thing. But to follow up, can you talk to us about daily spiritual practices, rituals, tools to stay grounded that you absolutely cannot live without? And why is it so important for maintaining your energy?
1,000%. I think a simple thing that I do every day is I pray. I pray many times a day, especially having people come into my life. And, there's many reasons why people come to a psychic. Maybe they're having situations in their relationship. Maybe it's something to do with their family and their family matters. Maybe it's something to do with their career. Maybe it's something to do with a trauma. Regardless of what it is, pray. I promise you, you will see the recollection of praying, of how much it doesn't only ground you, but it is a tool, right? So that would be the number one thing I would say. I'm constantly praying on people's names. Anybody that comes to me and it's even a second thought, I automatically pray on their name. That's something that I do. And I even pray it for myself. There's a lot of moments when you're a healer and your energy is depleted constantly because you're definitely helping others and such. And so I do pray for that strength, and I do pray for those things, but I don't just pray for myself. I pray for all. Because if I deserve something, everybody deserves something. But most importantly, meditation. Meditation is key for me. I see spirits. I see people's auras. I go through a lot of different psychic abilities. And so for me, meditation is key to making sure that I stay grounded. And I also work with crystals. Crystals are my second option to my business. I make crystal bottle blends, not just for myself, but for people who are interested into grounding themselves. I even have things that are kits that make sure that from head to toe, you're absolutely grounded every single day. Or if you're looking for something to ground you in a specific way, that's the beauty of crystals, is if you tell me what you're looking for, I can build something towards not only to your body, but your mind and your spirit. And that is a big, big cultivation to me too, that aids me like crazy. And I would definitely go back into that breath work. That is definitely a thing that does help, that I absolutely recommend to everybody, is figure out what breath work works for you, or just take some moments to take some breath, because we can't think straight if we're not breathing, if we're not calm, if we're not doing certain different things. But that's what I would have to say to that.
So diving back into meditation, how much time do you dedicate to it? And how quickly do you notice the negative effects if you skip it?
Great question. So for me, I don't gauge a time to meditation, because divine is divine and time is an illusion to the divine. So for me, when I go into meditation, it can be in between 30 minutes to about an hour and a half. And it doesn't feel like that at all, because I've practiced meditation enough. I can be in that space, and time is an illusion at that time. So, but being a coach, a lot of people that go, man, I don't meditate. Like, how often should I meditate? How often should I do specific things? If you even meditate for 10 minutes a day, just listening to certain vibrational frequencies and or a guided meditation, you will notice a difference in under a week. Always. It's always under a week. I advocate that all the time to my clients. Some people who have insomnia, some people who have anxiety, some people who have depression, some people who have certain things. I go, try this method and see if you still feel these emotions, if you're consistently doing that. And it's amazing how much people actually come back to me and go, what is this? Why have I not been doing it before? But then there's other situations too, where if I notice I don't get a second to meditate, it feels like the whole world's energy is crushing me. And there's a reason for that, because I help so many individuals with their spirituality that if I'm not grounded, how can I ground who I'm trying to heal and or cultivate? But that also happens with clients too. I'll have clients come back to me and go, man, I've been extra stressed recently, et cetera, this and that. And I'll ask them, I go, well, what's your habits of meditation, especially if I've recommended it before? And some of them get quiet and almost insecure. And they go, it wasn't the first thought. And I look at them and I go, honey, that's okay. This is why we ask questions. We want to be able to help each other and bounce off of each other, right? And so it's just a healthy reminder that I go, hey, if you don't give yourself that space of balance and time, if you don't do that, then sometimes the world gets so loud, but so do we. Right. And it can be as soon as if you're meditating consistently and you miss in between 1 or 2 days, you might notice a significant energy shift that kind of spikes and comes in, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I will be very transparent. I miss quite a few days, and I can feel it. I do tend to go sometimes longer periods than I would like to admit between meditations, and you can definitely feel the difference.
Yeah, 1,000%. You absolutely can. And if you know, right? That's the terminology that I do say with it. If you do know, then you know that there is a shift and there is a definite difference. So if you're listening here and you're going, goodness, I've never listened to meditations before and I don't know how to get started with something like that, come and consult with us, come and talk with us. We can teach you guys some tools to learn meditation and not just jump into it, but teach you how to be grounded before you go into meditation, because I think it's excruciatingly important when I hear people say, oh, I can never meditate. Well, now you're making it harder to meditate because you're affirming to yourself that you can't. And that in itself is whatever you put out in the universe, you put back in to yourself. So when you say you can't do something, now it's going to be harder for you to do that thing because you're putting that cycle in. So as a lesson, don't say you can't do something, guys. Okay? I don't want you guys to affirm that to yourselves, because I promise you, you're more than capable of doing anything. Truly, you are. So to wrap up this section, I think we need to kind of clear the air, right? We're talking about meditation, we're talking about certain things. So, Kristin, what is the biggest misconception about the paranormal world or being spiritually sensitive that you want to set straight for our listeners? What's something that you would advocate for that?
Positive energy. We see a lot of movies, a lot of scary stories, obviously all based around negative energy, right? But the biggest thing that I did, one of the biggest things that I learned is positive energies are immensely helpful. It is like a breath of fresh air to interact with them, to even just have them around you. I know I have a few hanging out around here, and they are just absolutely wonderful. They can aid you. They absolutely will aid you. I've done energy work on people, and they aided me right back. That is the one misconception, only because the paranormal world isn't just about negativity. It's not all about entities, it's not all about that, but the one thing a lot of people don't talk about are those positive energies when you help them. Steph and I have had a few that we've they've been stuck. They've had wounds, all of those kinds of things, and we've helped them, and now they are here like friends. And it's just an amazing thing to experience.
Very well put, Kristin. Very well put. Yes, the spiritual world isn't always negative. I know we have all these movies and different types of situations that get peering to us, of course, to be able to engulf these things. And a really big thing, humanistic wise, is negativity spreads more than positivity sometimes. When you go somewhere that are listing reviews and stuff like that, is it mostly positive reviews or do you see negative reviews? Right? Or it's like, if you want to leave a review, how often are you going to leave a positive review versus a negative review? Right? It's that kind of same concept. And it is such a beautiful thing to help lost souls, whether they are really hurt people or even just somebody who's innocent, right? It could be someone like a child, right? That's completely innocent that wants to be with their families, or it could be something as dark could be. But we still have to look at those energies and want to help them, right? And so another question for you, Kristin, is what is one piece of pop culture, kind of like the paranormal lore that we were kind of talking about, like a ghost story or a rule or maybe just some type of movie or a situation that is surprisingly accurate to your own experiences? Is there anything that's like equivalent to something like that that you could relate?
You know, I'll be very honest. I do not watch any movies, any scary movies relating to ghosts or anything like that. I never really have. I've watched a few of them. I haven't liked the negative energy that comes from them. So I don't have a really great answer for this, only because those are the only things, and I like to surround myself with the more lighthearted kind of spiritual activity. Yeah, I dive into the negative, but like I said before, we always learn something from that, and something great usually always comes from it. The only thing that I can think of is looking back at That's So Raven. Particularly, I think of stuff like that, right? You look at it, you watch it, and you go, whoa, that's not real. But in the reality and grand scheme of things, Steph reminds me of that show.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know what to say personally to that. I mean, I'm kind of flattered because that's true. I get downloads, and before, when I would get downloads, I wouldn't be sucked out of a room. Okay. And I know that sounds very ominous, or so to speak. It's just kind of foreign to some people. But what I mean by being sucked out of a room is when I get downloads and visions, I can't even see the room I'm in anymore. It takes so much of my visual representation that wherever I'm at in that current moment, I can't even exist in it like a human. I am being pulled into another dimensional plane to receive information. And there's a lot of downloads that I've gotten. I've been able to feel things in the future, sense things in the future, visualize things in the future that have came into real time. I've been able to connect with individuals because their guides come to me, or vice versa. When my guides come to me, they pull me out of the room. It just depends. So I thought to ask that question because I'm like, there could be a situation that way, but thank you. I appreciate the way that you answered that question too, Kristin.
Thank you. That was the first thing that came to my mind for pop culture, since I don't really watch it entirely anything about spirituality, just because I like to experience it myself. That definitely was the first thing that popped into my head. So, talking about along the lines of like pop culture, I know there are some conspiracy theories that have blown some minds wide open. What is the biggest conspiracy theory that you've heard or secretly believe in?
Oh, this is a good one. I would definitely have to say one that pivots the most is the Mandela effect. I think a lot of people question the Mandela effect, and I fully believe in the Mandela effect because we do live in a multiverse. We do live in a multidimensional plane. Absolutely. And it is interesting to see, you know, how books have changed names, how other titles of businesses have even changed names. And some of us recall when something was named something else and etc. It's because we live in a multiverse, guys. 1,000%. And we're in a multidimensional plane. It does make me think of the concept. If you don't watch Rick and Morty, I am going to use a reference because it is quite an intelligent show that does talk about multidimensional planing. And I know it's relatable to what we live and breathe. So there is an episode of Rick and Morty where Rick, the grandfather, builds a battery that runs his spaceship. And in this battery, it stops working. And he has actually created a multiverse of individuals, a whole civilization to run his battery. And so he goes in and visits them and goes, hey, what's going on with this battery? And that is the way that I truly look at the Mandela effect. I know there are things that can bend this reality, that things have created such into this reality. If you do need some good examples on certain things like the Mandela effect, I would absolutely recommend watching the movie Donnie Darko. Obviously, if you're of age of rated R movies or certain things, that is the most Mandela effect movie I have ever encountered in my life. And there was a moment in my life where I watched it like 7 times in a week. I watched it once a day. And every time I watched that movie, I noticed different things in that movie. And even if I watch it still to this day, there are new things I am seeing in that movie. So I would definitely say in conspiracy things, Mandela effect definitely launches skyrocketing for sure for me. The second thing I would say is definitely the remote view individuals from the past, right? This has kind of caused more of an opening into the Stargate project, right? Stargate project came out in the 70s, like towards like 1990s, like in between that. And it was a theory specifically of remote viewing, where individuals would aid into certain programs on being able to spy into certain things and to certain types of stuff with the aid of an individual who could do remote viewing. And there is a lot of theory behind that going, oh, that's not true, or hey, that never really happened. Yeah, it's just a theory. But with people who have psychic abilities, I have remote viewing. So I know exactly what it's like. And I also find other people who don't know that they have this gift actually have this gift. And a lot of the time, a lot of people way back when had to hide their abilities because they couldn't use them. They thought they would be mocked, they would be judged, they would maybe get in trouble. And so I think the Stargate project is definitely one of those things that a lot of people hold conspiracy around it. But based on my experiences, I can't say it's flawed because I live and breathe remote viewing daily, all the time. So those would probably be my 2 things, the Mandela effect and definitely the Stargate project for sure.
Those are some very good answers. I do agree on both of those. Those are, yeah, the Mandela effect has always piqued my interest. And so then I have the question. So many of these conspiracy theories come from people trying to make sense of the unknown, right? Why do you think humans are drawn to these ideas?
Because it is unknown. And that's what does perk interest. When you can't add 2 + 2 and it equals 4, it's like 2 + 2 equals something different. That's going to catch somebody's attention going, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And it does create a fascination. Or it creates a sensation where they go, oh, because it doesn't make sense, it cannot exist. Well, one thing I would like to make extremely clear. This is an experience. We are not meant to know everything, but we're also not meant to label things in the fact that just because it doesn't make sense doesn't mean it's not real. Because there are a lot of things that are real that we still don't have answers to, and it still doesn't add up. So truly for me, it's yin or yang. right? There is this understanding where these theories can be very unknown and there's no proven factors, but we cannot deny the evidence of what people have gone through. There has been drastic evidence of what individuals have gone through, whether it's the Mandela effect, whether it's this other effect, whether it's another theory. There's a lot of people who have gone through these theories in their own pivotal points of their life, and every single person holds wisdom, because wisdom is one of the most crucial powers that there is out there. And wisdom doesn't just come by knowledge, by reading something. It's experience, and you can't deny an experience, right?
No, absolutely. I agree with that as well. You cannot deny the you can't deny the things that you experience just because those become very personal. And like I've said a million times on here, they become the lessons that you learn to continue your journey in the universe.
Absolutely. If this episode resonates with you, please comment, like, and subscribe now. All of the links to connect with us are in the description below. Thank you. So, Kristin, having gone through these intense situations like the More Awakening series together, what is something new you learned about my spiritual approach or my strength during those experiences and or that experience?
How much of a tough cookie you are. Quite literally, when you stand in a room with Steph and she is, for lack of better terms, battling these negative energies, and I only laugh because when you're actually going through it, it's a pretty calm process in a way, but when you're standing in the room with her and she is up against something that, in particular, Edith. Let's talk about Edith. When we were standing in the room and she was talking to Edith, she was very stern, but you could feel her energy very calm. And I think that's something that I took away from there, right? Having that calm energy doesn't mean you have to necessarily be soft when you need to be hard. She was very grounded and she was right on the money. And that was the pivotal moment for me that I realized to keep yourself as grounded as you are, even in this situation, even in these types of situations when you need to be stern with someone, it's incredibly important. And I commend Steph for that because that was an amazing situation that I got to witness.
Yeah, thank you. Not a lot of people get to see that in me, and they don't get to see me in that type of energy work all the time, especially in person. It's a pretty rare occurrence when I'm in front of somebody and I really get to show them what I'm capable of. And I think the most beautiful thing with working with energies too is you can be firm, but it doesn't mean you have to match their energy. I mean, specifically with Edith, she was not easy to talk to at first. She was very harsh. She was very neglecting. She was very stern. Not the nicest energy, but I knew you can't face a bully with the same energy. Because if you do that, one, that's exactly what they want. But two, you're going to enable something that they don't maybe even want to be right now. So I had to be firm, standing 10 toes down, but also having decency and respect for this energy, making it understand, look, I'm not going to take this, but if you really want some help right now, I am glad to help you, but I need you to back down a little bit. And you'd be amazed how many harsh energies that are very dark and very mysterious and, have that resentment kind of energy start to very much calm down because they can see it in me going, oh, she's not getting angry. She's just being very firm that she can help me. And I'm actually getting in the way with her helping me, which is actually what I want. So thank you for putting that input in, Kristin. I love that. And it kind of pivots to this question because basically off of these types of energies, there is a design of free will, right? So what are your thoughts on karma, destiny, and or free will? Do you believe they work together, or are they separate kind of forces? Can we talk about that?
I fully believe they work together. I think they all come in, I want to say, chain of command in a way, if you will. Free will with your energy alone is something that's really important because I believe karma also comes into play. If you are using your free will to be negative, to do negative things to other people, even doing negative things to yourself, you're only going to create negativity. That's what you're going to create. You're going to manifest negativity into your life. So if you use your free will to do good for others, to do good for yourself, good karma will come your way when it's owed. And I'd say owed very lightly because you have to think of it as I want to do this good thing for somebody else and not expect anything in return. Now, fortunately, the universe doesn't always work that way, but it does in certain situations. And so you're going to create your destiny if you continue to use your own free will to do these nice things for other people.
I love that. Thank you. That is so important to touch on because they absolutely do partnership together. Karma, whatever goes around comes around, right? That is the defining point of all three of these specific categories when it comes to karma, destiny, and free will. What goes around comes around, right? If you put good into the world, what karma are you going to get? Good, right? So whatever you're putting out there is what you're getting back. Whatever destiny you're putting out there is what you're getting back. Whatever free will that you're putting out there is what you're getting back, right? However, this is a pivotal lessoning that I would like to bring up because if you walk a horse to water, can you make it drink? No, you can't. So as many times with free will that you want to help somebody, they also have the free will to not be helped. And that is a very powerful thing. When it comes to karma, there are some moments where we can't convince somebody that something that they do every single day is going to impact somebody else and it equals to their karma and or their destiny. It is free will. That is one of the most prominent lessons in the divine ever that I've ever had come across my way. They will say, I will tell you once, and if you don't listen, I'll give you twice. And if I give you twice, if you come back the third time, you're at the point of free will. So what they are hinting to that, it means that if they are trying to help you in many portions of your life and you are not recognizing those things as a higher power, they will step back a little bit and let you have free will, which ties into your destiny and or karma, right? So those things very much do dance together. But what are your thoughts on that, Kristin? I'd be very curious what your thoughts are.
No, I really love that input. That was a very good way to put it. You cannot make a horse drink water, but you can put in the effort to lead them to the water. But it doesn't mean the outcome you're hoping for is going to happen, but you can give them that tool. And I think that's a really important thing to remember. But Steph, let's pivot back. What did you learn about my gifts or my resolve when we were in the middle of the Morehouse clearing?
Oh, well, Kristin says I'm a tough cookie. Kristin is also a very tough cookie, just to let our listeners know. She aided me in wearing spiritual armor that day. It was so beautiful to see as somebody who was, first off, Kristin's coach, to seeing how much spiritual armor through her Reiki that I could feel all around my body. Also, Kristin was such a grounding point in the middle of this clearing. You know, I'm trying to keep myself grounded, but Kristin's job was not to just keep me grounded, not to just keep Bree grounded, not just to keep Rebecca grounded, but also herself grounded. She was doing an impeccable job on making sure that, you know, her seeing me and saying, wow, Steph was so calm and she was very grounded and all of these things. It wasn't just me. It was Kristin too. If it wasn't for Kristin's Reiki, I wouldn't hold that spiritual armor like I did that day. So it's not just me who's getting that benefit of her learning things. I learned things from Kristin too. And that is definitely something that pivoted very drastically into me. But also, what I learned about Kristin the most out of this experience is truly how gifted she is. It's not just about what she's done. I look at Kristin and I go, goodness, if you are like this now, Kristin, who are you going to be in years? You're going to be a powerful human being, and not just a powerful human being. We're souls too, guys. We do have souls in us. So I can only imagine when Kristin and I leave this plane, how beautifully powerful Kristin is going to be on the other side, being able to help people, being able to be there for people, not just her family, but other people who need help. And that's truly what I learned that day, for sure.
Thank you. That means a lot. I know we've both worked pretty hard to get to where we are. But I do have a question. Was there anything that surprised you about the Reiki in general? I know you and Rebecca had talked about it on our last episode, but was there one thing that maybe surprised you when we were doing this clearing?
The one thing I would say that surprised me is how calm the energy felt that you put on me, specifically me. And with being a psychic medium, I have constant thoughts here, there, everywhere, all the time. I'm constantly picking up and receiving not just myself, but everything else around me. And it's almost like I was going from a closet of space to having acres of space around me. And that in itself created peace and calmness. But the most important thing, like I kind of emphasized, is that spiritual armor. With that calmness and that much depth of being able to breathe, if something was coming near me, I could see it miles away now. It wasn't just like a little ticking sensation, like tingles and certain things and temperature element and certain stuff. If something was across the block, I could see it in my head. I could feel it in my body. There was a lot of heightened energy that way, but I was so calm and peaceful that I was more observancy, not being in the moment of what that energy was feeling. It was more observancy, which created a very powerful energy, truly, but it really did come from that calmness and that peace.
Thank you for adding that. I think that's super important. It's really important to me to hear that kind of feedback because it tells me that the work I've been doing, even the work you've been doing, it can be really beneficial for not only our clients, but for ourselves as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you too. I mean, we've gone through some beautiful things together, and I know this is not the end of it. There's many more between you and I that obviously we are going to experience life together and not just help each other, but help you listeners who are listening out there. We want to help you. We want to be able to be a part of your lives too. If this is information and things that you're looking for in regards to feeling or having in your life, or just these obviously knowledge point bases, we want to help you 1,000%. And obviously we're pivoting to listener stories now. So, Kristin, I have to ask, What kind of stories or encounters are you most excited to hear and explore in these next upcoming episodes?
Off the wall stuff. Listen, it is very different for someone like me to look at an outside encounter compared to an inside encounter, right? I don't want to say it like that, but kind of like I don't have to experience those feelings and those energy. I can feel them, but I don't have to face it. And so I am very excited to hear how other people have felt about them. I think that's going to really help open up you listeners in seeing how people feel about them. You can relate to them. All of those kinds of things is I think it's going to be very eye-opening for everybody.
Exactly. I want stories that are going to put me on my tiptoes like my reality has put me on my tiptoes. I've only shared a pinch of stories through this episode. You guys will get to know more of that in the coming time, but I want our listeners, you're listening, I want you guys to bring us stories that changed your life. It actually completely reflected a whole different reality for you. Whether it is very paranormal situations, whether it is that you maybe passed away for maybe a couple of minutes to a half an hour and you went through an experience as you passed away. Maybe it's alien stuff that you've maybe gone through. Maybe it's other different types of things like that. Me and Kristin want to hear you, your story, your imprint, because it's so important to get our words out there, guys. It's very important to have a voice. And if you question if you haven't had the space to be able to have your voice, this is your time to shine. It's right now. We are taking submissions. We really would love to have you guys on. And we're doing that as soon as this next coming week, we're going to start taking on some episodes. So finally, Kristin, what is the key message or reassurance that you want to give our listeners who are kind of preparing to submit their own vulnerable, frightening, and or paranormal powerful stories to our podcast?
This is an open space. That's where I want to start. Because if you're going to be vulnerable, that means we get to be vulnerable, right? And this is a space of no judgment. It's a space where, quite literally, if we were in person, we could hold hands. All right. We want to support you. We want to give you the space for you to get out what you need to get out of it and teach you the lessons that were supposed to come from this. So this is a true space of being able to be open and vulnerable and have your story be told. It could probably feel a little frightening, right? Opening up in that vulnerability. But how do you learn the lesson of not caring what people who don't agree with you feel? You don't get to learn that lesson by not being vulnerable. And I think it's a really important thing to be able to learn that lesson and stand in your own power. Because you can't stand in your own power if you're afraid. And so I want this space to be open and I want it to feel like we're holding hands. Because I really will, if I can.
Thank you for that. I absolutely agree. I tell my clients all the time, and I'm sure Kristin agrees with this. This is a non-judgmental, open, free zone of you being yourself. And I want to embrace you with open arms, with you being yourself. If you're a person who has a story that you know you've never been able to tell a story before, I would love to be that safety blanket for you. And I know Kristin would love to be that safety blanket for you as well. There are a lot of us that have a lot of different stories that we go, goodness, if I tell this to somebody, who's even going to believe me? Who's even going to see what I feel or understand where I'm coming from? And who knows? Sometimes it is a story that you do tell that other people don't understand. And your story is meant to be known. So do not hesitate. All you guys have to do is you just go to our website at www.transcendencemagnetized.com/share your story. And that's how you submit to get on here. And we are so excited to have you guys join us. We're so excited to be able to highlight on you and be able to bounce off your stories. And one thing that I can add to Kristin's point, if you guys say stories, if you tell us your experiences, I'm seeing visions in real time of your experiences. I am hearing things in real time. I am feeling things in real time. So especially, not only do we not want you to feel scared or worried, or maybe we won't understand, I promise you, we'll understand a lot more than you think, not just as a regular human, but as people who are very tapped in, who can feel and sense things. We know when someone's telling a story and what has came of that. We're very excited to let you guys know that we already have some stories that have been submitted. And so we are going to start on those stories, but please do not hesitate to submit your stories. They're coming up very, very soon.
That's all for our transmission. This was a great deep dive. Thank you, Steph, for letting us into your journey, and I hope this gives our listeners a clearer picture of why we do this work.
Likewise, Kristin, it's always powerful to revisit those moments. This is why we feel so strongly about sharing our listeners' truth.
If this episode resonated with you, please comment, like, and subscribe now. You can also connect with us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Links are in the description below.
You can also visit us via our website at www.transcendencemagnetized.com.
And if you have a paranormal story, a whisper, an undeniable encounter, a full-blown awakening, please submit it on our website for a chance to be featured on the podcast. Access our links in the description below.
Until next time, keep following the whispers.